Hey, this is Wayne with Our Callings podcast, our podcast. And today we're going to talk to the soup man who runs the Soupmobile. What is it? What do they do? And to learn more about their story.
Who is Our Calling? What does Our Calling do to help the homeless?
The nonprofit.
We care with dignity.
Our Calling.
Can't help but think about the definition of Christian.
We connect with intentionality.
Called Our Calling.
It's to Our Calling.
We build community with integrity.
This is Our Calling and our podcast, a word on the streets about homelessness. Okay, David Timothy, the soup man. You even have a shirt that says the soup man.
I do.
Soupmobile.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is Soupmobile and what is, first of all, it's Soupmobile, not Soup Mobile, like a mobile phone. It's Soupmobile.
That's
and why
correct.
is it called the Soupmobile and what is it?
So the Soupmobile, Pastor Wayne, was founded 20 plus years ago now, right here in Dallas, Texas. And we're a mobile soup kitchen. And it is Soupmobile, just like automobile, but with the word soup. And over the years, we've served a lot of soup to the homeless here in Dallas, Texas. But the key to what we do, we're on wheels. We take the food to where the homeless congregate. We go to them and we serve them food, but also a healthy dose of love, caring, and compassion. 2,000 years ago, Jesus, as you know, said, "Feed my sheep." We think he meant food and more, and that's where the love and the caring and the compassion come in. So that was 20 plus years ago, and it's just been a great ride ever since.
Wow. Feed my sheep. Now, what's the mission statement of Soupmobile?
So it is those three words, feed my sheep. We don't have a long and complicated mission statement. It's not pages and pages. It's just those three words, feed my sheep. But again, Pastor Wayne, we think he meant food and so much more. And so for the Soupmobile, the food is critically important. We know that these people need to be fed, but we think that they need so much more. Anybody can hand out a sandwich, but can you hand out a sandwich with some love and some caring and some compassion? That's what Jesus did. When Jesus multiplied the loaves and the fishes, he wasn't just, here's some food. He was making sure that love of Jesus was being given to these people. And so all we're doing is we're trying to do the same thing, is give that love of Jesus to these people.
I love that. You talked about Jesus feeding people, right? The feeding the 5,000. He didn't open up a soup kitchen or, in his time, a falafel stand, right? Yeah. He wasn't serving just shawarma to folks there that were hungry. He delivered the most important message they ever heard, and he delivered food. Mm-hmm. And he had the disciples go and do it. He could have snapped his finger and every belly been full, but he chose to use them, like you have used, thousands and thousands of volunteers to go out and serve people and also deliver a message.
Yes.
Now, talk about volunteers. How many volunteers do you guys have?
So over the years, we actually counted these up as best we could. Over the years, we've had more than 30,000 volunteers come to the Soupmobile. Some come one time, some come, and most come multiple times. Once they get a taste of the water, they want more. And they come back and they volunteer again and again. And what we love about our volunteers is they get it that while the food, yes, important, there has to be so much more. Just feeding them isn't enough. We start there, but for us, the food is just the doorway into their hearts. So volunteers, they're the heart and soul of the Soupmobile for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a lot of people to not only have serve with you, but to train and encourage, to walk beside and to learn what it means to be the hands and feet of Christ. Right? I love that. So if that's what the Soupmobile is, give me a definition. Who is the soup man?
So people ask me about this soup man thing. That's my nickname on the streets. That's what the homeless call me, but a lot of other people call me the soup man too. But the soup man is just a guy, a regular guy that says, geez, 2,000 years ago, Jesus hung on the cross for me. Now, that's pretty unbelievable from my viewpoint. Why? Why would he do that for me? I wasn't even born yet. But he hung on the cross for me. He paid my sins. Why? What? I hadn't done anything. And even to this day, as the suit man and serving the homeless and needy children, what have I really done that would deserve somebody hanging on the cross for me? And the answer is nothing. I haven't done anything to deserve that gift. So when you say, who's the suit man? The suit man is a guy that is just trying to follow in the vapor trail of Jesus, just in his dust that's coming off his feet. If I can just stay in the dust trail, I feel like I'm accomplishing something. The bottom line for me is, I know I'll never be able to repay the gift of the cross, but you better believe that every day when I wake up, that's my number one goal, to try to repay the gift of the cross. And that's really what the suit man is all about. Just a regular guy trying to repay a guy from 2,000 years ago that did something for me that just staggering.
We had a debt we could not pay. And it was written with a check of Christ's life for us. And we do what you do. And what I'm hearing from you is not to earn it, but as a, as Paul says, I want to be a slave of Christ.
Yeah.
I want to freely give myself to his service because of what he's done for me.
Right.
I've always said if I get a tattoo, doulos is one of them I'll get. I just love that.
Yes.
Praise. David, I also heard you say something 3 different times in this short time we've been talking that tells me that you're not just David, my friend. You're not just the suit man. But David, at your heart, you're a pastor. And that the gospel and the message of the cross is so important to you. Talk about that. Tell me what is it that drives you to be pastoral and care for individuals, and what kind of role does a pastor have in the middle of soup or food?
That's a good question, Wayne. For me, as a pastor here in Dallas, Texas, again, it all goes back to Jesus and following his example. He showed that food is not enough. In all of the stories that we read about in the Bible about Jesus, we see that number one was love. That's number one, what he was giving to people. So as a pastor, my number one goal isn't the food. It never will be. My number one goal is the love. And I believe that we're all pastors in some capacity. We're all people that can take that love that Jesus gave us and give it to someone else. But for us, serving food, we've got the classic doorway into their hearts. When you're handing people, hungry people, food, you've got their attention. And while we're very low-key about this Jesus thing, and we don't shove it down anybody's throat, we see this as an opportunity. Here's some food, and oh, by the way, did you hear about that Jesus guy from 2,000 years ago? No? Let me tell you a little bit about him. All low-key, no high pressure. We don't need to shove it down their throats, and the reason we don't is because there's a God up there that he can prepare their hearts, and he'll match their hearts with our offer of this love and of Christ. So pastoring, I tell people, don't make it too complicated. Anybody can do it if you're willing to take that love that Jesus gave you and pass it on. It's just so critical that we do more, particularly in today's, this is a crazy world we're living in. The world in many ways seems to have gone haywire. Now more than ever, that love, as pastors, we have to take that love, and Pastor Wayne, we have to freely give it to the homeless, to the needy children, for that matter, to everyone. And I believe that's exactly what Jesus wants us to do. And again, we don't ever do this in the thought of, Jesus, we're even Stephen now. I paid you back. We're good. What does the Bible say? Not of works, lest any man should boast. So the works that we do, again, it's all about staying in the vapor trail of Jesus, just staying in his dust. If we can do that, I think we're good to go.
Wow. So you wear multiple titles. Pastor David, Pastor Timothy, David Timothy, right? You have two first names. I think that's cool.
I do.
So Pastor David, Soup Man, Pastor Soup Man. To me, I think it's amazing that God has called you into a space where you can meet a physical need in order to give an opportunity to meet a spiritual need. And I love what you said, that we don't shove Jesus down their throat. One of the statements I've said around here at OurCalling for years is that Jesus is not the chips and salsa in order to get the meal, right? We're going to serve anybody, no matter what they believe. They don't have to believe anything. We're going to serve really good food. Last week we served brisket and ribs on one day, and today we served thousands of wings, because we want to serve people the best food that they can get in order to have an opportunity just to love them well. And I love that you do that remotely. Like, is the mobile part of what you do, right? The Soupmobile. How many locations do you guys serve in now?
So what we do, the Soupmobile, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, is either feeding directly at a mobile location, or on some days we're partnering with a church, mainly in South Dallas, one of the poorest zip codes in South Dallas. We're partnering with them, and we're providing them enough food so that they can feed their flock. And not just their flock, but people down in South Dallas, particularly the kids. These kids in South Dallas, Wayne, as you know, many of them have a roof over their heads, but many a night the cupboards are bare. And for me, that's personal. Growing up in Detroit, Michigan, about 39 years ago, maybe a few more. But growing up in Detroit, Michigan, I grew up in a household, we were never homeless, but we were poor. And many a night as children, I remember going to bed hungry. And you would think that hunger for a young child would be a bad thing. But this is how smart God is. For me, God took my childhood of hunger and of want and of need. He took that and he built in me a compassion and an empathy for people that are struggling to get food. And I would have never dreamed in a million years as a child, or even as a young adult or a young person growing up, I would have never dreamed that God was training me, preparing me to be the soup man. It's just amazing. I keep going back to, and I tell people this, he's pretty smart. And he's got this thing where he can look into the future and he knows what's going to happen. He knew back before I was born that someday I would be the soup man, but he made sure it happened. He made sure that childhood of hunger I had, that was not a coincidence or an accident. Now, he was careful to take care of me. It wasn't something where the lack of food ever crippled me in a physical way where I couldn't do what I'm doing today, or a mental way. So he was careful not to make it too hard, but hard enough that I remembered. And growing up, I never got away from that idea of, geez, there's people out there that are going to bed hungry at night, just like I did. So when I look at my childhood of hunger, and then I look at these children, particularly in South Dallas, that, yes, roof over their heads, we had a roof over our heads, but the cupboards are bare, I am just staggered that God chose me. Really? What are you thinking? You're choosing me to do this mission? I'm in no way qualified to do this mission unless you qualify me, God. And he did qualify me in a huge way with that childhood of hunger. So what's the Bible say, Wayne? God works out all things together for the good, and I guess all includes bad things, right?
Yeah, all those experiences.
So that's what he did. He took my bad experience and he just turned it into something which I think is, I hope is helping a lot of people.
Wow. I mean, I met you a long time ago. I think you were in a van before it even said Supermobile on it,
Yep, that's true.
right behind City Hall. I
Yep.
think we were both at the city's old day resource center.
Yes, sir.
Probably
That's right.
15, 20 years ago.
That goes back a few years.
Yeah. I don't think I had any gray hair then. And, but a lot has changed. So it's
It
been
has.
fun to grow up next to each other
Yes.
and to watch each other. Going back to the beginning, though, what led you to change direction and to start serving soup?
So, for many years, as I mentioned, I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, a city that to this day I love. And that's where I had my professional career as a pension consultant. And I worked as an adult in the Detroit and Detroit area for many years and had a fairly successful career. And it was something I enjoyed doing. I seemed to have a knack for it. But then my late wife got sick, and she needed medical treatment. And we ended up coming from Detroit to Dallas because here we have UT Southwestern Hospital, one of the top facilities in the world, not just the country. And so we came to Dallas for that reason only, to get my late wife some medical treatment. And when we got here, and we're seeing the homelessness in Dallas as you know, we just drive down Main Street and you see the homeless camped out on the streets, the sidewalks by City Hall. And so as we'd be driving to the hospital for her appointments, and I would see all these homeless, it just started ringing a bell in my head about my own childhood of hunger. It was like God tapping me on the shoulder and saying, hey, see them? They're hungry. You remember your hunger, David, when you were a child? Remember that empathy and compassion I put inside you? And it was, for me, a trigger. And I remember turning to my wife at the time and saying to her, babe, what do you think? Is there a way we could work feeding the homeless here in Dallas between your appointments and things? Is it even possible? And she looked at me and she said, sure. And then she quoted me the Bible verse about through Christ, all things are possible. And so from that little tiny conversation on my way to a doctor's appointment for my late wife and seeing these homeless people, that's where the Soupmobile was really birthed. And just like you said, we bought an old man. It wasn't even, they had lettering on it yet saying Soupmobile. And there we were serving out behind City Hall. And from those meager beginnings, those humble beginnings, I think it's safe to say we've grown into a fairly substantial charity here in Dallas. And even that is a little bit of a miracle because you know yourself from starting OurCalling, it's a business. We're running a business. We can talk about love and compassion, and that's all there. But it's a business.
You got to pay the bills.
We got to pay the bills. We got to file tax returns, and you know the success rate for businesses in the United States is abysmal. 5 years, 90% are gone. 10 years, it might be 2% are left. So just starting a business like the Soupmobile or OurCalling and surviving for 20 years, that's a little bit of a miracle in itself. Which constantly tells me God's hand is on your mission, OurCalling. It's on our mission, because if His hand is not on your mission, I think you're going to fail. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how good of a pension consultant I was, and I'm good with figures. That means bupkis. If God is not going to support your mission, I don't think it's doable. Yeah. So out of those humble beginnings back many years, 20 plus years ago, that's how the Soupmobile was born.
Man, starting a business is hard, and then starting a ministry business is even harder because you don't sell anything, you don't make anything, and you're trusting God every step of the way, and it's just been so miraculous, right? It is miracles to watch Him provide. I had someone come in this building right after we moved in this space in 2017, and they were looking around at how beautiful this building is, and they were saying, you must have like one big donor. like, some billionaire kind of guy. And I said, actually, we do. We like to say we only have one donor, and he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. And she was like, really? He's a farm and rancher guy? And I'm like, no. In the Old Testament, it talks about God who owns everything. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. And when God sells some cows, he provides for us. And we've watched God provide through the hands of so many people for so many years. And it's been fun to watch you guys grow. And it's at least 20 years, I think, that we know each other.
Yes.
It's before OurCalling existed, I know for sure.
That's right.
But where you are now, from a van, a little white van, serving soup behind the city hall, to where you guys are now. You're down the street from us. You have a beautiful facility. You've got a church down there, the Soupmobile Church.
Right.
Kind of give us an overview of what does the Soupmobile look like today? And it's changed over the years. The pre-pandemic, it was different now than what it is now. Y'all used to have housing, all kinds of different stuff. But what is the Soupmobile doing today? Like, if you were to describe your organization today, what is it?
So you're right, Wayne. We've come a long way. Again, we're giving the credit to the guy upstairs, but we've come a long way from that old van to a fleet of vehicles now. And we have Soupmobile Church, the home church for the homeless here in Dallas. Beyond, right next door to the church, we have, as you know, a very nice facility, an office and a warehouse facility. And each one of those things seem to have been a miracle in itself. So, for example, when the pandemic was starting, we had a small piece of land across from the church that we had purchased. But we had no money to develop it. And now we're hearing about this pandemic thing. And it's like, if we had any chance to develop this property, now there's no chance. And out of the blue, I get a call from a banker friend of mine who had donated to the Soupmobile for many years. And he said, David, he said, come on down to the bank and tell me a little bit about what's on your radar screen. What are you doing now? And so I went down there and we were talking, and I'm telling him we've got this piece of land. It's not going anywhere. And now this pandemic thing that we're hearing out of China is coming. I said, I think we're just going to be sitting on this piece of land for a while. And he said, can I come down and look at it? I said, sure. And so he came down the next week, and we're standing on this vacant piece of property. And he said, David, tell me your vision for this property. And so I start describing, talk about lack of faith. I start describing this really bare bones operation where maybe we put a trailer on the property and we put some gravel down so we have a little bit of a driveway. And I'm like 3 or 4 minutes into it, and he goes, stop. He says, you're not telling me your vision. You're telling me what you think you might be able to do. He said, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear your vision. So I said, okay, you asked for it. Here it is. So I gave him the vision of what I wanted for the property. You've seen the property. It's pretty nice. And when I got done, he looked me in the eye and he said, Soup Man, he said, I'm going to lead the fundraising, and you're going to have your buildings and this property. I'm going to lead this for you. And I said, really? He said, yes, I am. And I said, and I was joking at the time, he's a banker, very successful banker. And I said, I'd take that to the bank, right? Yeah. And we both laughed. But long story short, from that humble beginning years ago to just that one van, and then building Soupmobile Church, then to this banker saying, I'm going to lead the fundraising. And he did. And why we don't have those Rolodexes anymore, like the old days, it's all computer. This guy had a Rolodex of contacts like you just can't imagine. And he started calling them. And he said, I know this guy, they call him the Soup Man, and he's got this vision that he told me about. And I bought into the vision, and now I want you to buy into the vision. And of course, he's talking financially. And it was just staggering, the doors that opened up that I could have never opened myself. While the Soupmobile, I think, has built a fair amount of respect over the years, Wayne, we certainly didn't have the the financial ability to pull a project off of that size. We needed a partner that had impeccable financial contacts and reputation, and this banker was it. So when you ask about what's the Supermobile look like today, not only do we have more vehicles, not only do we have a church, it's a little white house on the prairie type church. Now we have this headquarters that we built during the pandemic. You talk about God being on the job. I had people tell me, Wayne, and I know people told you when you bought this building, because this building was in rough shape, to be sure. People told you, like, have you lost it, Wayne? You know, have you gone off the deep end? Look at what you're buying here. And we kind of got the same thing during the pandemic. I had people come to me and say, David, no, there's a pandemic going on. You can't build during the pandemic. And I said, well, things have changed. Times have changed. I said, but I have a question for you. Has God changed? And their answer was always the same. No, he hasn't changed. The same God that parted the Red Sea can part the waters that we can build this project. And we did. And even though the zoning offices were closed a lot because of the pandemic and people were off work, nonetheless, he gave us favor. And so when you ask about what's the Supermobile look like today, 30,000 volunteers later, a fleet of vehicles later, a church later, a major headquarters later, we look like somebody that went through the Red Sea. All of it, everything we have today, every single thing, including my shirt that says Superman, everything we have today is because that guy from 2,000 years ago said, David, I'm going to pay for your sins. I'm going to the cross for you. You didn't ask for it. You don't deserve it, but you're getting it anyway. And that's why the Supermobile is what we are today.
Wow. David, I keep hearing you point back to Jesus, man. That's just beautiful.
I tell you what, he's my guy. And I'm not, you know me for years, Wayne. We're both pastors, but I'm not a fanatic about it, and neither are you. We get it that God will prepare people's hearts. But I believe, just like serving regular food, you put it out there. They might not like it, might not want to eat it. That's okay. No hard feelings. I'm offering it, but you don't have to take it. And the same thing with this Jesus thing. We're offering it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to take it. Maybe God hasn't prepared your heart for me yet. Maybe as I offer it and you say no, maybe God is getting you ready for a year from now when Pastor Wayne offers it. And maybe you'll be receptive then. Mm-hmm. Maybe, David, you're just the stepping stone to someone else. So we never take it personally. We never shove it down their throats. But we're constantly pointing back to Jesus. He's the key to the puzzle.
Wow. And you do that with vans and with box trucks. You deliver a ton of food in South Dallas. You guys make a lot of food there in your facility. You have a church service there. You guys are faithfully serving every week. And where you are is so strategic. You know, you are there where the Coombs camp used to be.
That's
It's
right.
one of the biggest homeless camps in Dallas, right there under 45 at Coombs, at a piece of property that probably anybody would have looked at and said, that's worthless. It's not only worthless because it's only this weird little corner lot, but it's worthless because it's under a bridge by hundreds of homeless folks. I remember when the Super Bowl came to Dallas, like 20-something years ago,
Yes.
that, they just cleared it out. Put everybody on buses and sent them packing somewhere, to make it look good.
Yeah.
That area is exactly where you wanted to be, and you planted right there across in the middle of those crossroads to be a beacon for Christ. Yeah. And not only did you get more soup vans and soup box trucks, but you have a trolley car and you have a little ice cream scooter thing to pass out ice cream. I mean, the Lord is using you to be flexible and creative. You do it with pizzazz, and you don't do it for show. You're down there just to be his hands and feet. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the word you use, pizzazz, I think that's an appropriate word. The Soupmobile, we try to do everything with just a little bit of pizzazz, and you're right, not to show off. We're not showing off. If anything, we're showing off the incredible might and power of Jesus Christ. But when we drive up, like we do have a trolley. I think we have the only private trolley. It's a gasoline trolley on wheels. It's a regular trolley with wooden seats. I think we probably have the only private trolley in all of Dallas, Texas, maybe all of Texas. I don't know. You don't see them on the road too often. When we drive that trolley down the road, man, people stop. They stop their cars.
Man, when I saw it the first time, I thought it's like a Rice-A-Roni commercial. You know, remember that
Yes.
when growing up?
Yes.
But what do you do with that trolley?
So in big stenciling letters on the side of the trolley, it says Soupmobile Prayer Trolley. And that's exactly what it is. So we take out volunteer groups in that Soupmobile Prayer Trolley. And we go to different areas where the homeless congregate. And we get out of that prayer trolley. We've got some food with us. Remember, the food for us is the doorway into their hearts. But it's all about, do you need prayer? I got my prayer team here. Yeah, this is the ACE prayer team right here in Dallas, Texas. I got them with me today. And they're here to pray for you if you want it. No pressure, but if you'd like some prayer, we're here to pray for you. And usually the response, not usually, all the time, it's overwhelming. I would say 99% of the crowd wants prayer. And so they come up, and we've got the prayer team in different stations around the trolley, and the people come up and they pray one-on-one with them. So the Soupmobile Prayer Trolley, while it's about food, just like everything else we do, just the doorway into their hearts. And that's where the pizzazz thing comes in. Nobody else is pulling up with the trolley. That doesn't make us special or better than anybody else, but it says something to the homeless we're serving. I think it says to them, we think enough of you that we're going to do a little pizzazz for you. We think you're special enough that we're going to do some pizzazz. And here's today's pizzazz, the Soupmobile Prayer Trolley.
And you also do it, and have done it for years, with theme music. You've had this song playing when you show up at Pastor Karen's place, right, at Dallas International Street Church. You've served there for years in their parking lot with theme music.
Yeah, you're right, Pastor Wayne. I'm from Detroit, Motown, and so we're big into music. And so we know that music, from experience, it just has a real power to break down barriers. And so whether we're playing music out of a boombox or we've got several volunteers that actually sing. They come and they sing. And do the homeless love that, particularly if they're singing Motown. Last summer we had Grammy Award winner Dante Bowe come to Soupmobile Church. We put up a stage on the parking lot of the church. And he came pro bono, didn't charge us a dime. This is a Grammy Award winner. Can you say Aretha Franklin, Grammy Award winner?
Wow.
He came to sing for the homeless. So we know that music and song has a real power, and it breaks down barriers. When you're tapping your feet and dancing to a Motown song with a homeless person, it doesn't matter if they're white, black, purple, atheist, Christian. It makes no difference. It breaks down barriers, and if you can break down that barrier in a benign way, which music does, then guess what? Here comes that love of Jesus thing. Here comes that Christ thing, always coming in on the table. You interested?
There's a theme song that plays out of your vans and trucks when you show up over at Sister Karen's place at Dallas International Street Church. You've played it for years. When people hear it, they know it's the Soup Man.
That's right.
It's the Rocky theme song. So what's the story with that?
So back when the Soupmobile was founded 20 plus years ago, somebody, I think it was me, said, we got to have a theme song. But we just didn't have a clue of what it could be. And I said, it's got to be something with hope, something that stirs hope in people. And we talked about different songs. And again, I'm from Detroit, Motown. And it kept coming back to Rocky was on the list, the Rocky theme song from the movie, which, if I didn't mention it already, the greatest movie of all time is Rocky, bar none. So the Rocky theme song, it's truly a story of hope, not just for me, but for anybody that watched the movie. You see this boxer, Rocky, and the movie starts, and he has nothing. He's just a plug. He's down and out. His career is over, but through the grace of God, he gets a second chance. And through some prayer and some hard work and some perseverance, Rocky rises up to be the champion of his own life. He becomes a boxing world champion eventually in the movie. But this rise up, there's a scene in the movie where he's on his knees praying. This rise up didn't happen by accident. And when we serve our homeless people and we play this Rocky theme song, it stirs something in them. Everybody knows the story of Rocky and how he came from nothing to be the champion of his own life. And so our message when we come with that music is, you too, young man, young lady, you can be the champion of your own life. Not going to be easy, maybe. It wasn't easy for Rocky, but he did it. And if you'll incorporate some prayer, just like Rocky did in your life, and some hard work and some perseverance, you can be the champion in your own life. And so it's more than just, it's a great song, the theme song to Rocky. It is. Everybody knows it, but it's by design that we chose that song to literally inspire people in their own lives to rise up and do better.
You know, I feel like I'm sitting with the Rocky of serving and feeding the homeless. If you rose up from adversity, your career was over, right, in the pension world.
Yeah.
And you had some personal challenges going on at a time in your life, and you rose up from the ashes, you running up the stairs with both hands over your head, and not to build up yourself, but to really build up a ministry to focus on Christ. And that's just been so cool to see.
Yeah.
You're the Rocky of the soup world.
Well, I tell you, just like Rocky, though, I never forgot and never forget where it's all really coming from. It's coming from that guy from 2,000 years ago. No matter how determined or diligent I am, and if he's not part of it, it's just not going to happen. So, I think the Soup Man has come a long way, but only because of that guy from 2,000 years ago.
Wow. So you talked about where the Soup Man came from and where the Soupmobile is now. What's next? What's the future of the Soupmobile? I can't imagine what kind of ideas the Lord's put in your head, but what's next?
All right, so this is the number one question I get asked is, what's next? We're in our 21st year. We know our history. We know we've come from nothing to where we are today. We know it's been one parting of the Red Sea after the other, for sure, particularly building our headquarters during the pandemic. So I've had people say to me, David, you're cool now. You've got to the point where you could pretty much coast if you wanted to. And I respond to that, and I'm always polite. But I say, do you think Jesus ever coasted? Do you think he ever got to the point where he said, I've saved enough people. I've healed enough, no more. I've done really good, but it's enough. And the answer is no. Jesus never stopped. He's not stopping today. He's coming back for us. So I feel like we are expected to continue this mission, not just coasting, not just resting on our laurels and staying where we are. I think we're supposed to keep doing more. An example I use, I was talking to a friend of mine who was an atheist. And we were talking about this concept of growing and about Christ being the key to it. And an example I gave him, I said, let's forget about God for a minute. Let's forget about Christ, forget about all that. Let's just talk about the universe. I said, is it true we'll call him Joe. Is it true, Joe, that the universe, they've proven, is constantly expanding? And he said, absolutely. He said, it's a scientific fact. The universe is constantly and has been constantly expanding since the very beginning, whenever you think that beginning was, constantly expanding. I said, so again, setting God aside, I said, if the universe is constantly expanding, isn't that a clue to us? Isn't that a nudge to us that we're supposed to keep constantly expanding? To be in tune with the very universe that we live in. And so winding back to the question of what's next for the next 20 years, my answer is, I don't know. I don't know what's next. And that's the beauty of it. I don't have a 20-year plan where I'm going, well, let's see, 20 years from now we'll have, now we have this many vehicles, we'll have this many. We have a prayer trolley. 20 years from now, we'll have this flying car that we fly to the homeless. I don't have that kind of vision in my head, and the Lord hasn't revealed it to me. But guess what? He didn't reveal anything to me when we started. When we started and saw those homeless people down by City Hall, me and my late wife, and said, gee, could we get a van and maybe feed them? When we started, there was no vision of the future. There was no vision in my head that God gave me a Suitmobile church or our beautiful headquarters or a fleet of vehicles or a prayer trolley. There was no vision that he put in my head. He basically gave me a start. He said, here's what I'm giving you. I'm giving you this van, this old van, and you're going to put food in it and you're going to go feed homeless people. And while I didn't hear these words from him, I think this is what he was thinking. Let's see how you do. Show me what you can do, what I've given you, with what I've given you now. And if you do good, I'll give you more. And that seems to have been what's happened over the years. We take what he gives us, whatever the idea is, whatever the vision, prayer trolley, church, whatever it is, whatever the pizzazz is that he gives us. I tell my staff, let's rock this baby out. Let's do this to the very best of our ability, and then sit back and go, okay, God, what's next? What's next? What are you going to bring us? So I am unbelievably excited about the next 20 years, but I don't have a clue of what it will look like. Now, I know some basics. I'm sure our fleet will expand. I'm sure we'll feed thousands and thousands more. I'm sure we'll start up other programs to serve the homeless and needy children. I get kind of the basics, but what it will look like, what form it will take, I just don't have a clue, and it's okay. I'm totally okay without having a clue because he's got it all mapped out for me. I only have one job here. When he brings it to me, David, honor it, respect it, be good at it, and then wait for the next thing. And it's waiting with just anticipation, knowing it's going to be fabulous. The Suitmobile prayer trolley, my gosh, I could have not dreamed of that in a billion trillion years. But when that idea came a couple years ago, it was like, wow, yeah, amazing. We can do it. Okay, God, we'll find a trolley. We'll get it. We'll do it. And we have. And I like to think he's looking down and going, you're doing pretty good with that suit, man. Not perfect, but you're doing pretty good. I got some new stuff. You're not ready yet, but it's coming down the pipeline. Get ready.
Mm. So what I hear you saying is like in the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus said, why do you worry about tomorrow? You know, that today you want to be faithful with today. With whether it's one van or truck or 10, that you're faithful with that, trusting the Lord for tomorrow, whatever he provides, seeking his will to really love his people and do his work.
Yes, that's exactly it. You know, if Moses could trust God said to Moses, I want you to go up to the promised land, which was up to the northeast. And God says, head south. With these millions of people, go south. I mean, what a blunder by God. God, it's the wrong way. I can hear the people murmuring in the crowd. It's the wrong way.
Your GPS is broken.
Yeah, where are you taking us, Moses? Not, we're supposed to go up there, not down here. But Moses trusted. He trusted that the Lord knew what he was doing and had a greater purpose. In this case, one of the purposes was the Egyptians were killed at the Red Sea, never to bother them again. Lord knows if they had gone to the Promised Land, I could see the Pharaoh going, let's take the military up there and get them back. But they were destroyed at the Red Sea. So for us, it's about trusting that whatever direction he sends us, just like Moses, we're going like, I don't get it, but I know you do, and I know you have a plan. And so tell me what you want me to do now. I'll do it. I'll do it to the best of my ability, and then we'll see what else is coming down the pike.
Wow. So, David, you have the Soupmobile Church, the Soupmobile fleet of vehicles. Yeah. You've written how many books?
I think the 10th one we're working on the 10th one right now.
Wow. You have the 5-minute sermons you email out.
Mini sermons.
Yeah. You have the Ask a Soup Man questions in the newspaper, right?
Yes.
And the
week.
Lord has been using you in amazing ways to minister to lots of people. And what I hear you saying is you just look forward to doing more of it and trusting the Lord for whatever he wants you to do tomorrow.
I do. I'll give this a little tidbit. I had a pretty good friend of mine say to me last summer, Soup Man, you've been doing this for 20 years. When are you going to retire? And I remember I burst out laughing. And I said, the R word is not in my vocabulary. I said, Lord willing, when I leave and go to heaven, I said, I'm going to be in the saddle with my boots on. As you know, because you do amazing good works through OurCalling. As you know, the rewards for what we do are beyond, you can't even describe them. What we do isn't even work. This isn't work. If it's work, I never got the memo. It's just a pure joy to do what we do. So the concept of walking away, retiring from something that's a joy, like I said, the R word is not in my vocabulary. So yes, I'm Pastor Wayne, I am super excited about the next 20 years, not even knowing what's coming, but that's part of the excitement. I know it's just going to be fabulous. I just know it.
Wow. Well, thanks for being here today. Thanks for sharing the story. And just pray that the Lord will continue to bless your ministry so that you can keep being the Soup Man.
Amen.